I want to talk about Star Wars, the sequel specifically, because I rewatched it recently and it could have been good. It could have been good, I think. I will start with some housekeeping before I start this video. The first one is that hundreds of thousands of people die in these movies. And I don't think the first time I watched it, I really processed it, but rewatching all three of them back to back to back, worlds of the first 5 minutes of the first movie, I believe 4 or 5 planets get decimated by Kylo Ren, like fully the planets explode. And I want to start by saying that it's an intense, Ben Solo / Kylo Ren is going through an intense character arc, because he truly starts as a person who makes genocides, like planet extinctions is what he does. That's his, and he does no remorse whatsoever. He kills, when they go into Jakku, he kills an entire village, just like orders all of them to die, and kills a few of them himself. In the person of a droid, by the way. He's just looking for a droid, but he's like, well, they're in my way. I'm never gonna see them again. They're not relevant to the plot. Let me just end their lives forever. So that's where he starts. And that's an important, that's an intense way to start. The other thing that I want to talk about is the fact that J.J. Abrams wrote or directed the first one, then Rian Johnson did the second, and then J.J. Abrams came back for the third. The reason why I want to talk about this is because as we progress through the video, some things are going to be made glaringly obvious. From the switch between the second and the third is a whiplash like I've rarely experienced. It almost feels like they're in disagreement, and that the pebbles of hope that Rian Johnson kind of sprinkled throughout get fully ignored in favor of whatever Abrams' narrative is or wants it to be. Unsure the reason why, because I thought the second one was a pretty good way to try to redeem a character who's committed genocide on planets, but what do I know? So we started in the movie one, and the final thing I'm going to say is that I rewatched them back to back almost like a fever dream. I have taken 0 notes, so this are just my raw, unprompted thought. Very likely there will be things that are wrong, and I wish I could care, but my mask is drying and I need something to do, and I have no one else to talk about it. So here you guys are. So we start with, I believe, Kylo Ren, an evil man. We don't know who he is at this point. Just like a tall, evil guy who goes onto a planet and decides to murder everyone in pursuit of a droid. So we start The Force Awakens with a very long text explaining all kinds of insane thing. And the Wikipedia page says, 30 years after the Battle of Endor, the First Order has risen from the fallen galactic empire and seeks to end the New Republic. The Resistance, led by Leia, opposes the First Order. Leia also searches for her lost twin brother, Luke Skywalker. So already we know the starting point of this. In the 30 years that happened that we are not privy to for whatever reason, Leia has lost her twin brother. Okay, why not? And we're introduced to a plethora of new characters because they need to be young and they need to be good looking. Otherwise, no one's gonna go watch a movie with the old characters doing all, like, if you had given me a Star Wars 7 and it would have been all of the previous cast just as old people doing shenanigans in space, I would have loved it. I think it would have done so much good for the community, but alas, this is not where we are. We're on Jakku, where this random dude called Poe Dameron, who's a very good-looking guy who works for the Resistance, finds the map to find Luke Skywalker. So Luke has left supposedly a map so that people might locate him in case they ever need to. Why not? And he has a droid who looks a little bit like the RR one, I think. Like the other kind of like almost circular one. You have the tall gold one, and then you have the other one. Can't remember the name. Anyway, BB-8 is like that new equivalent, except he's a lot faster. He rolls around. He's a quick. He's almost like a little dog. He's the little pet. He's a token pet of that TV series. You want to root for him. You want BB-8 to survive everything. I personally would die for BB-8. So that's what it is. But at the moment that Poe gets the map, Kylo Ren, who's that evil tall dude who's just dressed in black and has a mask very much like a la Skywalker, or a la Darth Vader, my bad. He arrives on Jakku, murders so many people, like a full village, in trying to find that same droid. And Poe Dameron decides to tell BB-8 to just go run away, find a way to escape so that you don't get captured, and so that the First Order, which is now opposing the New Republic. The First Order is they're the mean ones from that new era, right? They're fronted by Kylo Ren, the big tall dude in black. And so the BB-8 escapes. And Poe Dameron leaves the BB unit to escape on Jakku, because apparently that's safer than being with Poe, so why not? And so BB-8 just kind of wanders around on a desert planet with no hope and no plan other than go far away, and Poe saying, "I'll find you again." Sure. And finds Rey. Rey is a breath of fresh air, in my personal opinion. I think the actress Daisy Ridley, who plays her, did it so well. She has that youthful energy that it just works for me, okay? It works for me. Love it. Her costumes, stellar. Her hairdo, really fun. And she's an orphan, because why wouldn't she be? It would be too complicated to introduce too many characters who might be related to her. So anyway, Rey is just Rey. She has no last name. She's on Jakku. She's waiting for her family to come back. She's waiting. First movie, that's all she wants. She wants to be in Jakku waiting for her family, even though we don't really know how old she is. She's in her 20s, because she's so young looking. Early 20s. She has to be in her early 20s. And she, the entire movie, she just wants to go back to Jakku waiting for her family. And everyone is like, who's gonna tell her that if they left her when she was like, I don't know, kid's age. Between 3 and 10 would be my guess. That's sometime, let's say 7. Let's say she was 7. Sure. Let's say she was 7 when her family abandoned her. And all she remembers, you have a little bit of a flashback where you have someone, we don't know who that is, holding her so violently by the arm as she goes, no, and you have like a spaceship that just goes away, and we assume that her family's on that spaceship, and we don't really know why. All we know is that she thinks they're coming back. So in the meantime, because they left her on a planet that has fucking nothing, an orphan at 7 years old, she becomes a junk scrap person. So she goes and finds carcasses of old spaceships, and she like finds parts that could be useful. And that's the only, on Jakku, you see so many people who are junk scrappers or scrap junkers. I don't know what the word is. And that's all that there is to do on Jakku, because it is a desert place. It's kind of like Dune, except they have not evolved into creating those internal kind of full. It's just a horrible place to be. It's just the Sahara, the full planet. And so there's very little to do. And all she does is look for parts. She sells those parts to this huge alien who gives her portions of food so that she can feed herself while waiting for her family to come back. And that's her routine. You see it happening twice, so you know, now that's my routine. I go in the morning, I go look for scraps, come back, ask how much, see how much portion that's gonna go for, and then I go home and I sit outside of my own scrap of junk waiting for my family to come back. So that's where she's at, and that's what she's been doing for a long time. Somehow she's super optimistic. Like, she's a ray of sunshine. If it were me, would not be the case. I would not be trusting anyone anymore, and I would not be waiting for my family to come back after. It doesn't matter. That's just a difference between her and I. And I admire her strength. It just couldn't be me, but fair enough. And so Rey's doing this thing, and the BB-8 arrives in the village. So we assume that the village that Kylo Ren has obliterated has to be a few hundred miles from wherever Rey is. And Rey, you know that Rey's a good person because she sees that BB-8 as it's being, I think, this one alien tries to kidnap the BB-8 unit to sell it for parts, and the BB-8 being a circle with no arms, which again, a lie, because later on you see that BB-8 defends itself really well, like has arms and things and like a fire thrower that can come out of its body. So I don't know why he's just letting himself be abducted, but regardless, here we are. And Rey argues in whatever language with the guy who's trying to steal the BB-8 unit, and so the BB-8 unit essentially imprints on Rey, goes, she's not gonna let me die here, the way that Poe Dameron didn't seem to care about, and I'm gonna follow this very, very young orphan wherever it is that she goes. So that's where we are at. So Rey is now accidentally in possession of the map to Luke Skywalker, and she doesn't know about this. She's just going about her business. Meanwhile, we have another storyline that is happening in parallel to this, so we know that things are gonna happen. And the storyline is that you have a stormtrooper, and I want to start by saying how fun that we're finally seeing stormtroopers as humans and not as like this weird entity, because clones, I mean, I haven't seen all of the Star Wars elements, so I don't really know what I'm talking about here. But to me, in all of the movies that we've seen before, the stormtroopers are just there. They die and they appear at random intervals, and there's always enough of them. There's no more of them when you no longer need them, right? It's a very strange concept, but I'm here for it, and I don't mind. However, love the fact that we are seeing a stormtrooper storyline in the sequel. And so what happens is when Kylo Ren is trying to get the BB unit and decides to kill every single person in a village, the stormtrooper, you see a stormtrooper, you don't see who that is yet, decides not to shoot. And you can recognize it because he tried to save another one of his like colleagues or whatever, and he got like a handful of blood on his face, so you can recognize him because he's like, he's marked or scarred or whatever. Once they have killed all of the villagers and they are free to go, he goes into the ship, remove his mask, and he's like sweating and breathing fast because they just murdered like an entire village to just obliterate. That's okay. I can't get over it, but I'll be fine. And you have this, oh my god, what is her name? This absolute unit of a lady, Brian Tart. Gwendolyn Christie, and she plays Captain Phasma, and she's a tall unit of a woman, and she finds the stormtrooper breathing heavy, blah blah blah, and she goes, hey, I didn't tell you to remove your mask, also report for duty right away, blah, blah, blah. And you can tell that she knows, I think, that he didn't fire on the civilian. So you know he's a good guy. So he puts back his, you just know that he's gonna be some kind of important at some point, because he's just, now he's here. He's in the storyline, right? I'm kind of getting confused, but I know that at some point, Poe, very early on, he gets captured by the First Order, and Kylo Ren removes the concept of the map using the Force, and I have beef with the Force in this sequels, so I'm gonna talk about it a little bit more later down the line, but he's just using the Force to extract information, which, fine. He realizes that it's in the BB unit. Kylo Ren understands that Poe does not have the map. Poe gave the map to the BB unit. So now Kylo Ren is looking for the BB unit, which is with Rey on Jakku. Meanwhile, you have the stormtrooper who goes and finds Poe and tells him, I will get you a ship if you can get me the fuck out of here. I have no name. My name is FN2187, I think, and I have no family. I have only been trained to do this, and I have so many questions about Finn. First of all, because you have thousands of stormtroopers. This is the first time that a stormtrooper goes, is what I'm doing bad. And I just want to have the origin story of Finn, please. If somebody, how does he decide that genocide is not a good thing to do, since all of his peers don't seem bothered by that at all? Very interesting, because he's also very young. Like, Finn is 17 or 18 at the most, in my personal opinion. He's baby-faced and he's very cute, but he's a young guy. When you put it compared to Cameron, who has to be in his, like, Poe Dameron, he's in early 30s probably. He's still also young, but Finn is young. And I want to understand how he comes to decide that actually genocide is bad and that maybe we should escape. So Finn's storyline, because Poe decides to call FN 1287, he decides that it's too long of a name and he's gonna call him Finn, which, fair. And Poe does not ask Finn how he decided to be a good guy, but I'm asking that question, and I would like to know what happens in your programming that you suddenly decide to be a good human being. Not because I want to use it on anyone here in our current society and the current political climate. I'm just curious. So anyway, I cannot impress onto you how much at this point I do not care about that storyline. So Poe and Finn escape on a little spaceship. They're out their way, and Kylo Ren doesn't give a fuck because he's looking for the BB unit on Jakku and does not have time to waste on Finn and Poe right now. And the problem is Poe doesn't, because it's the map is the only thing that can help the resistance. Unclear to me how, because as the series progresses, the problem is that Poe and Finn go back to Jakku because Poe is looking for the map and Finn is like, I just want to get the fuck out of here. Get me out of here. Don't bring me back to Jakku where there is a mass murderer on the loose. I don't want to get close to him anymore. Just get me out. Luke does nothing. He's helped out of his shell by Rey, but at this point, they're not planning on having Rey in. Like, Rey's this thing that happened. She just happens to be there. She happens to be a nobody. She happens to be someone who can wield the Force. At the beginning of this movie, no one knows who she is, so I don't really know what they're planning on doing with Luke at that point in the story, or why they want to, aside from like maybe Leia wanting the support of her twin brother, but Lord knows, 30 years have escaped. What could have happened? We don't know. So they head back to Jakku. They get shot out of the sky. It explodes and they're separated. Poe and Finn are separated. Finn picks up Poe's jacket, hopes that, I don't know, he just picks it up, and then the ship drowns, and he thinks that Poe has died, and Poe is nowhere to be found. So we all assume that he's died, and that's perfectly fine. I also want to talk about the size of Jakku. Jakku is such a huge planet. Jakku is a massive planet. That we see it when they comment. Like, it's not like a small, like, My Little Prince kind of planet where you have like one rose. It's a huge planet. It's a dune size. It's a human Earth-sized planet. Yet they all manage to find each other within the, like, improbability very high, but that's okay. It's a movie, and I'm here for personal enjoyment, and I'm getting it. So Finn finds Rey and BB-8 in a small random village. Amazing, fantastic. But the First Order finds them again. We don't know. None of this is explained. We don't know how they figure out where the BB-8 unit is. Like, we just don't. I don't think we know. No, that's not true. They go into a bar. No, because that's after. So I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that suddenly the First Order knows where the BB-8 unit is. Fine. And they escape by taking one of the alien who exchanges portions of food against parts. They escape on one of his old ship, which happens to be the Millennium Falcon, but they don't know this. So they escape. They're super happy. Finn and Rey, the babies of the series, have made it out of the Jakku alive. They are not dead. Things are looking good. And they have the BB-8 unit with them, with the map to Luke Skywalker. Fantastic. While they're in space, again, I just want to press upon you how big space is. Space is huge. Not only is it huge, but it's also expanding. So space just, and I know I think they're talking about the known universe, but Okay. I will, however, suspend my disbelief because what happens next is just an insane coincidence and just I can't explain how dumb that is to me, but doesn't matter. So they're in space, the BB-8 unit, Rey, the nobody, and Finn, the deserter stormtrooper, in the Millennium Falcon. They get stopped and they get eaten by like this huge ship. And in this huge ship, you have Han Solo and Chewbacca. Wow, fan service number one, and we're gonna have a bunch of those, so keep track of this. There's some shenanigans about like some aliens who want to settle a debt with Han, but I can't. So the only thing that you need to know is that this all happens so that Han and Chewbacca can be on the Falcon and they can all escape together. So now you have the Falcon, you have Han, you have Chewbacca, which is great for the older generations that used to watch Star Wars, and you have the new baby-faced arrivals, Finn and Rey, and you have the BB-8 unit. So they're all in space and they're learning how to get along. And I will say one thing in that movie that made it all worth it is the relationship that Han and Rey develop. Rey has not had a dad because he abandoned her on a desert planet at 7 years old. Sure. But they get along like a house on fire. She speaks Han's language. He notices and they just get along so well, and it's heartwarming to see. Meanwhile, you get introduced to another storyline, which is a little bit of a deeper understanding of what and how the First Order functions. So you're back at the First Order, kind of this, I think it's called the Star Killer base, and they're charging up a weapon, and that weapon is an entire planet. Sure, that's fine. So they're using a planet, they're converting the planet into some kind of like a huge super weapon, fine, that they're gonna be using to dismantle the New Republic. They're gonna kill the New Republic, because they're killing everybody with no regards for age, race, gender, diversity. They do not care, but they do want to end the New Republic. That is the only thing that they care about, and you can tell because their care for human life, it actually probably just non-existent. Like, it just does not exist. So we get introduced to the Supreme Leader Snoke, who's just a random bad guy. And you know he's a bad guy because he has a weird looking face and he's all eaten out on the side of the face and he just like looks like a weird hot potato. I think in the first movie you only see him as this tall, well, not tall, but like he's blown out of proportion through like a hologram or some kind. So you don't see him like physically speaking yet. I think that only happens in the second movie. And he's made to look quite impressive, and he isn't because he's a tiny, almost dead man. But anyway, he's the Supreme Leader of the First Order, which, sure, and we don't get a backstory for Snoke, I don't remember. I think we just know that he's a bad guy because he looks like a bad guy, and that's it. We have no motivation, no understanding of why, how this even happened, just that it is. So you have to suspend your disbelief hard in order to make that happen, but we are here. So you have the Supreme Leader Snoke, who's the Supreme Leader. You have Kylo Ren, and then you have General Hux, who's played by the guy who does this really cute movie with Rachel McAdams, the All About Time. Cannot remember his name. Ginger dude who looks so sweet and innocent in the movie with Rachel McAdams. Like, he just looks like a soft bunny bear. And then you put him in the Star Wars movie and he just looks like an insane, well done is all I'll say. Anyway, so you have the scene where they're charging up the weapon, and you have a scene between Snoke and Kylo Ren where Snoke is doing some exposition for the audience. Reminder, Kylo has been wearing his masks this whole time. We do not know what the man looks like, but Snoke is like, oh, I can see that you're broken by your emotions, and that I can tell that you're having a hard time because you're so emotionally just emotional. You're just an emotional man. Like, you're very emotional, and I don't love this, and I can that seems to be like a threat potentially to us, that you have too many emotions. But Kylo says, no, don't even worry about it. I could not care less about any of this. I don't care. They're talking a lot about Han, which makes sense because fan service to the previous generation. Also, Kylo Ren, as we learn, is the son of Han Solo. So we have a family situation on one side. Luckily, Rey is still a nobody. So now we have a fun story about a guy who's in his early 30s as well, I'm guessing, because it's set 30 years after the end of the previous movie, and Leia was not pregnant at this point. So he's 30 years old. We'll go with that. They had a kid right after the end of the movie. And so Kylo Ren is like, my father means nothing to me. And we can tell, I mean, he is with the First Order, and he has murdered, by that point, thousands of people. Hundreds of thousands, most likely. And so I have no trouble believing Kylo Ren, when he says, I do not care about other people, because he has shown that to me. I don't trust Kylo Ren at all at this point. And he's like, my father means nothing to me, and Snoke is like, okay, bet. We cut back to the Falcon. They decide to all work together because the good always works. And the BB unit gives the map to these random strangers he has never seen before. But good on you. Good for trust and friendship. They realize that the map that the BB-8 unit has is not fully complete, and you cannot find Skywalker with this map. So they're like, damn! And you also get this chance to get a little bit of an exposure. You have Han, who kind of explains why Luke has gone into hiding and why Luke has disappeared from the surface of the earth. And it's explained by the fact that he ran a new Jedi Order, like a training school, and one of the recruits ended up showing too much sign of like the power of the Dark Lord, or the dark side, I guess. This is not Harry Potter. And showed too much promise and was listening too much to the dark side. And so Luke got scared and decided to close the school. And you're kind of understanding that maybe the person who showed too much interest towards the dark side might be Kylo Ren, who is the son of Han Solo, who is like the brother-in-law of Luke, I guess. They're not married, but is this what it is? I don't know. English is not my first language. So, Han tells you Luke was kind of afraid of this dude with the dark side, and then this dude with the dark side murdered all of the... I'm sorry. Insane to me. Murdered all of the apprentices at the training Jedi school and then left. And I think knocked Luke, like he knocked the house on top of Luke, so Luke lost consciousness. Anyway, so when Luke woke up, all of the apprentices were dead, and Kylo Ren / Ben Solo, the son of Han Solo, had disappeared and was gone. And I want to stop here for a second and talk about Ben Solo / Kylo Ren. At this point in the story, when he is training with Luke, we don't know how old he is, but since he's risen through the rank of the First Order and he's 30, I have to assume it has to take a few years, right? You can't just like show up and become I don't know. Unless the fact that he was linked to Leia and Han was enough to make him rise through the rank, I have to assume that he must have done some amount of work in order to get there, which means that when he's killing all of these apprentices, he's got to be in his 20s, probably early 20s. I'm gonna assume that he has had a career in the First Order for at least 5 years. That's what I'm choosing to assume, which means that Kylo Ren, when attracted to the dark side, Ben Solo at this point, decides, oh no, I fear the dark side, I'm going to kill all of my peers in his 20s. And that's the character that we are going to be rooting for in the future, which is insane. But nevertheless, that's totally fine. The Falcon crew, they've arrived on another planet called Takodana, where they're going to meet with Maz Kanata, who we've never met before, I don't think. I think she's brand new to this sequel, and who might have an idea of how to get BB-8 back to the Resistance, because she works with the Resistance, and she owns this like crazy bar that has a bunch of random people, and I'm assuming very illegal things going on, but we don't really care about this. We love Maz, by the way. I personally love Maz. I would die for Maz. I think she just has an energy that cannot be replicated. She's just fun. She's punchy. She has these weird glasses. She's hundreds of years old. It is implied that she is hundreds of years old. And she's like, oh, I can help you get BB-8 back to the Resistance. Like, not a problem whatsoever. Also, who's that girl behind you guys? Like, who's that girl? Who is she? And she's nobody, right? Anyway, while they're discussing all of this business, Rey hears things. She hears something. We don't know what that is, but she hears something. And we assume that it's the Force. We have to assume that it's the Force, because what else could it be? And she gets drawn to like a basement of some kind, or like a vault or whatever, and she goes and finds the like a lightsaber. The lightsaber is speaking to her. Sure. And I personally did not know from looking at it, but apparently some fans knew right away that it was Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber handle thing. So I don't know if she touches it or not, but she just kind of has a vision. She has a vision where she sees the ship leaving Jakku. That's the first time that we see why she's an orphan and how old she was when she became an orphan. Well, an orphan. When she became abandoned. Because her family supposedly is still alive at this point. They just decided to abandon her. Maz sees her and goes, "Oh, you're strong with the Force," and she's like, "No, I don't think so. Also, I don't want your lightsaber. I need to go home. I want to go back to Jakku, where my family is going to be. The family's coming back for me." And Maz is like, "Okay, I believe potentially no, but that's fine." And so she says no to the lightsaber, runs away because she's emotionally triggered by the conversation with Maz. And so Maz gives the lightsaber to Finn and says, "Hey, take care of it. Maybe your girlfriend will need it at some point." And Finn and Rey are not dating, but there's some tension here. At the beginning of the movie, think that they could get together potentially. And also, I do want to stop here again for a second. This would have been a very interesting thing to follow. Not that the enemies to lovers that we get later on and then destroy isn't an interesting path. I do think it's also an interesting path, but I really liked the idea of a stormtrooper who has no family, or who was taken away from his family, brainwashed into becoming a stormtrooper, who somehow, through powers that be, decides to be a good guy again and helps the resistance. He joins the resistance, so he finds purpose again, and he finds the willpower to be something other than a coward, right? Because initially he just wants to escape. He doesn't want to go back on Jakku. Like, he is a coward. Finn's character arc in the movies is really, really interesting and really fun, and I'm really upset that we don't get more screen time of him, because he's an interesting character and I want to know his backstory, as I have said before and as I will say again. And so you have some inklings during the first half of the movie before we see Kylo Ren, because before we see Kylo Ren, I imagine him as just like an ugly monster like Snoke is, because that's how you're educated within the Star Wars system. In Star Wars, the mean, evil thing that we're against is always ugly. That is the way that it works. Look, I don't need to impress upon you all of the reasons why I'm right. And so my brain, when I saw this tall dude who just murders so many people, I'm like, okay, he has to be an ugly person. We're gonna defeat him. Therefore, Finn and Rey would be the main couple of that trilogy. So Finn has Anakin Skywalker's saber. Rey has run away into the woods. And at this point, Finn is taken by Rey. I just want to say, Rey doesn't, she's cool, but you can tell that there's a huge difference in levels of fancying. Like, Rey's like, yeah, he's a cool dude. And Finn is like, she could be my wife. Then you go back onto the Starkiller base, where they destroy an entire system. I looked it up, and it's like the Hosnian star system, including one of the New Republic capital. And so the New Republic is extremely weakened, no longer has any support, and so the First Order goes to Takodana in order to find the BB-8 unit again, because they want to find Luke Skywalker. They want to find him. We don't know why. I'm assuming they want to kill him, and this will end because he's the last Jedi, I guess, ish, even though that's not true. Anyway, doesn't matter. The First Order goes back to Takodana in order to find the BB-8 unit, so they can find the map, so they can find Luke Skywalker, and I'm assuming end his life. Two things happen during that time. You have Finn and Chewbacca and Han, who get saved by the Resistance that comes to Takodana, and it is led by Poe Dameron. Yeah, he did not die. Poe did not die. He was expulsed from the ship the same way that Finn was at the beginning of the movie, and he found his way back to the Resistance.
didn't look for Finn at all, by the way, which is kind of a blow, I would say. For me personally, it would be a little bit of a blow if Poe Dameron just woke up from being expelled from a ship and then, because he says, I believe Poe says something along the lines of, oh, I was looking for you and then couldn't find you, but did you really look though? Like, Finn didn't go far. You could have found Finn if you really had wanted to. So that's where that is. You know where your loyalties lie. Anyway, he's all forgiven because Poe finds Finn and he finds Han and Chewbacca and he saves them. Wonderful. But Rey ran away into the woods because she has fears. Kylo finds her in the woods. He finds her in the woods. He wants the BB unit to start with, and he thinks that she probably knows where the BB unit is, and then he realizes that she has seen the map through the power of the Force, and therefore he no longer needs the BB unit. He doesn't need the map, he just needs her brain, so he takes her on his ship. And Han and Finn see her being taken by Kylo Ren into his ship, and Finn breaks down, doesn't make it. Rey and Kylo Ren are gone, and Finn is with the Resistance. So his character arc is growing. You also get the reveal that Leia is Kylo's mother, which you kind of guess if Han is the father, then Leia probably is the mother. But you get the reveal regardless, because you don't know. Kylo's mother could have been any other bitch. So that's insane to me that they had to clarify it, but sure. Anyway, so you go back to the ship where Rey has been taken prisoner, and she is resisting Kylo's attempt at locating the map. So he's like, and she's like, and he realizes, oh my god, she is strong with the Force. He also removes his mask, and you see that he is a good-looking dude. And this is the first inkling that Rey is not going to end up with Finn, because I don't know what the rules are. All that I know is that when you have a character who's too good-looking, something's gonna happen. And I know that Adam Driver, the actor that plays Kylo Ren, is a very divisive opinion. A lot of people either really think he's good looking or think he's like the ugliest motherfucker on earth. I am part of the team who thinks he has an incredible amount of charm. So I see him remove his mask and I'm like, okay, change gears. He is now the new love interest. I clocked that immediately, and I believe me and about hundreds of thousands of other girls were like, you are now the love interest. And we were right, but at what price is the question. Anyway, moving forward. So he removes his masks. He tries to mind bend her, and you can tell that Adam Driver has a really, really good range. He's a very, very good actor for the job, because even though his character is botched so many times and he comes out on top every single time, you can tell the inkling of any feelings that he has. He's a good actor, and he plays that little vulnerable side of, I still love mom and dad, and like I have feelings, and like I'm trying to be this thing that everybody wants me to be, and like I'm an evil guy, and to be fair, he is, because he has he destroys planets that has billions of people on it. Millions, I don't know, but at least a few million. It's a planet. There's gotta be millions of people on this planet. He destroys these planets, just kills all of his colleagues' apprentices. He's a monster, but he plays the I might get redeemed line really well. He tiptoes on this, he dances on that line. Wonderful. So then Kylo, when he realizes I can't read her mind, goes to Snoke, and Snoke is like, where's the information? And he's like, she's strong with the Force. Like, he's so upset. She's like, you're strong with the Force though. Like, I'm struggling. She's strong with the Force. And he's like, okay, it's cool. Snoke is. He says, bring her to me. Don't even worry about it. I will get the information for you because I am stronger than you. Which is a lie, because as we will see in the second movie, he's dumb as a rock. I don't know how he managed to rise through the rank and become the supreme leader, because for someone who's supposed to be able to read the minds of the people that he's controlling, he's so stupid. He's very, very easily overthrown by very simple mind tricks. So I'm putting that out there. While Kylo is complaining to Snoke about how she's the Force and that's why I'm struggling, Rey is like, oh my god, I have the Force, crazy. And she Rey, love her. She manipulates the stormtrooper that's waiting outside of her cell, and she's like, hey, you're gonna remove the restraints from me, and you're gonna leave the door open, and I'm gonna escape. And that's exactly what the stormtrooper does. And so she's escaping. She runs for her life. And that's extremely interesting to me because no training. So I think what they're trying to tell you in that scene is that Rey is capable of great things, and that even with zero training whatsoever, she's going to be able to do some really interesting things throughout the movie. She's going to be a very strong character because she has the Force, so she could be a Jedi. She is almost as powerful as Kylo Ren is because she stops his attempt from trying to get her information from her. Rey is an intriguing character. Rey has escaped, but she's on the base. Meanwhile, the Resistance, and I cannot impress upon you how much I don't care about this plotline, but essentially this Starkiller is going to shoot again, like the weapon they're gonna shoot on the Resistance, so the Resistance gonna die. There's a situation with like a thermal oscillator that they have to like shoot out in order to stop the star from shooting, and it just doesn't make sense. The weapon is huge. The weapon is the size of a planet. The Starkiller explosion thingy is the size of a planet, and they think that by shooting down the thermal oscillator, it's going to stop the weapon from being able to shoot. But we must suspend our disbelief and move forward. So Rey's loose on the ship, and the Resistance decides that they're gonna go and they're gonna try to destroy the thermal oscillator, and they have to plant bombs in the ship. So you have Han, you have Chewbacca, you have Finn, and I think you have Poe, and they all go back to the ship and they find Rey. Oh my god. And when I say the ship, by the way, I mean like Starkiller Base, which is like just like a huge, it's a planet. They infiltrate the planet, they plant bombs. Rey is on that station, that thing, and they find her. Which, the odds on the planet, once again, to be able to find the person that you need so easily without any attempts whatsoever is quite fantastic to me, but that's great. And so what happens is, because you now have Kylo Ren who's actively looking for Rey, because he's like, where the fuck is she? You have Han who's there, so what has to happen? What has to happen is you need to have the first father-son confrontation. So you have Kylo Ren and Han Solo who find each other because the narrative requests it, and they have a conversation that ends with Ben murdering his father. So Han Solo, who has been beloved by many throughout his Star Wars day, has to be murdered by his son. And let me remind you again that his son is relatively weak in the sense that Snoke does not fully believe in him because of all of his emotions that he has towards his father, but he still kills his dad. It's gonna come back to haunt him. Like, he's not gonna do well for a few hours after this, but overall he still does it, which is an insane thing to do. And Finn and Rey, who now kind of see Han as this father figure, watch it happen in real time, and they have to deal with that. And Rey, I just think it's crazy because Rey has been abandoned by her family. She finds Han at a time where she kind of needed it. They become friends. You can see that they get along because she likes all of the same jargon that he does, and so Han Solo finds a daughter in her, and she finds a father figure in him, and I'm rooting for that so hardcore. And then she watches her brand new father figure get murdered by his son. I think it's a crazy thing because you want us to then redeem that man. I don't know how that's gonna even happen, but at this point it doesn't matter. During this scene you also learn that Kylo Ren is named, that Kylo Ren's birth name is Ben. Kylo Ren's name is Benjamin. Sit with that for a minute. So he calls his son Ben, which, why not? Name calling isn't enough, and Kylo Ren / Ben murders his dad. And then Chewbacca shoots Kylo, who gets injured but then doesn't die, and they run away. They run away into the snow. During this whole sequel, you have a lot of theme of like white and red. In all of the movies, it comes back. And in this movie, the way that it comes is that on Starkiller, you just have snow. You have a bunch of snow. And so they run away into the snow. Ben, like Kylo Ren, has like a red lightsaber, and Anakin Skywalker's saber is blue. Kylo kills his dad. Chewbacca shoots him, sets up the explosives. Poe explodes the thermal oscillator. So Kylo is injured, but still he runs into the woods, into the snow-covered woods. Rey and Finn are there together, and he pushes Rey with the Force. She hits a tree or something. She falls unconscious, and that gives them perfect opportunity to have Finn use Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, and so Finn and Kylo fight against one another. Then Finn gets incapacitated, and you have Rey, who wakes up, fortunately, from her concussion, and who picks up the lightsaber and fights Ben. For someone who has never handled a weapon, I guess she does have her staff, but a staff and like a lightsaber is not really the same thing, yet she wields it like someone who's been handling this for 1,000 years. She's almost as good as Ben is, even though Kylo Ren has been wielding a lightsaber for probably over 10 years at this. He's been doing because he was doing this at school, so he has 20 years of experience of fighting with a lightsaber. She has about less than an hour, and yet they're on equal footings. So love that. And she manages to slash his face, so he gets like a huge scar, which we all know is going to make him hotter. And she kind of lectures him about the things that he's done. She's like, how dare you kill your dad? And he's like, oh, I sense the Force in you, like you and I could do something together. I don't know why he suddenly changes his mind. It just doesn't make sense to me, but he suddenly kind of wants her to join him, and she's like, I want you to die. But then the ground opens up between them, and Rey runs away instead of finishing Kylo Ren off, who's now on the other side of a huge crevice. And Rey escapes on the Falcon with everybody aside from Han, who is dead. And so right as they escape with everybody, Chewbacca, Finn, and Rey, Starkiller Base explodes. You know that Kylo Ren isn't dead. He's been brought to Snoke so that he can complete his training, even though we don't really know why he hasn't completed it before. Like, it doesn't really make sense. I guess maybe because now he has killed Han Solo, but then if he had to kill him to complete his training, wouldn't he have done that earlier? Because it kind of happened as a happenstance that he ends up finding his dad. Like, he wasn't actively looking for him, so it doesn't really make sense that he would finish his training only now. Regardless, this is the way that it happens. Through something that no one could have seen coming, R2-D2 wakes up, realizes or guesses or tells them what the rest of the map is so they can find Luke Skywalker, and Rey goes to this weird island and finds Luke Skywalker. So the movie ends with Luke turning around, you see him, and you're like, oh my god, fantastic. And then the movie ends. So you know that Rey and Luke are now together. She's gonna learn how to be a Jedi so that she can defeat Kylo Ren, and he's just an old man on an island ran by fish people. So that's where movie 1 ends, which is, wow, so much information already, and so much things that you're gonna need to follow through. And then we have movie 2. We enter into the second part of the trilogy. Movie number 2, The Last Jedi. It doesn't open back where you would expect it to open with Luke and Rey learning how to be a Jedi. No, it opens with the Resistance fleeing one of their outposts, and Poe Dameron goes against Leia's orders, and he takes down a dreadnought, but in the process he gets so many people killed of the Resistance, including a lady called Paige. And Paige has a sister whose name I just forgot. What is her name? Rose? I feel like her name's Rose. Yes, it's Rose. Okay, so Paige has a sister, Rose, but Paige is running one of the bomb ships and essentially decides to die for the cause, and they take down a dreadnought, but she dies in the process. So Rose, who is a mechanic, who's not like this high up in the Resistance, she knows about it. She's having a bad time. We'll get back to Rose later. The important thing is that Poe decided to do this against Leia's orders, and Leia can see all of the death that this fight is bringing to them, and she doesn't love that. She can see that they're not winning. Like, there's so much loss in the process of trying to win against the First Order that she's just sad about it. The remaining Resistance people who have not died because of Poe Dameron escape into the hyperspace. So you still have some Resistance people, but a lot less because a lot of people just died. So the Resistance escapes into hyperspace, but the First Order finds them again almost immediately, and Kylo Ren is asked to take down around Leia and her ship, and there's 3 ships that are fighting against Leia's ship, and he's the only ship that does not attack. Kylo Ren still has a heart somewhere hidden beneath the thousands of people he has murdered because he does not try to kill his mom. But regardless of this, Leia gets thrown into space, like just space, full space, no suit, no nothing. She's just in space. She's cold. You can see she has little particles of ice, so because she should have died. But that doesn't happen. And what happens instead is that she uses the Force to go back into the ship and gets put onto intensive care. So Leia does not die despite being blown into space, which I'm fine with. I'll accept it. She is, however, kaput. She cannot lead the resistance right now. So there's some other people who take over. One of them is the Vice Admiral Holdo. There's a lady with purple hair and like a weirdly long neck. And she takes over for Leia. And they run away, but they're being pursued by the First Order. So this is like plot number 1. Plot number 2, you go back to Acto, which is the way I'm going to call it, and I do not know what the name is, but for me it's Acto. So this is the way it is. And Rey is trying to get Luke to teach her how to use the Force because she has never used the Force before, and she doesn't know what the fuck to do, even though, again, that's a full-on lie, because with no training whatsoever, she did manage to escape both Kylo Ren, who is one of the... Anyway, so that's what she's doing, I guess, whatever. She wants to be trained, she wants to become a Jedi. Luke says, no. Luke says, not with me. Luke says, that's not gonna happen to you and to me. We're not doing that. She still follows him. She follows his routine, and Luke is living my dream life. Luke, he fishes, he gets blue milk from directly from the tit of like this weird animal who looks like a strange elephant, and I'm not going to look into this too much because I fear that this will scar me, but essentially all he does is he eats fish and he drinks warm milk from the source. And that's all he does with his day. That's his day. He's in exile. He's in exile, and as a man in exile, he has no hobbies. He's just a grumpy old man. And Rey follows him around, and as she follows him around, she's been awakened to the Force now. So despite her not knowing how to do any of the shit, she starts to accidentally have vision of her and Kylo Ren. So they keep meeting. The Force is connecting them together. And it was from that moment where they started to have like mental meetings, where they started to meet up in secret, that I thought something's gonna happen. I sort of knew from the movie 1, but you never really know what's gonna happen. But that movie 2, when they start to meet each other and each other's brain fantasies, I'm like, okay, yeah, something's happening here. Kylo doesn't see around Rey, he just sees her. He says that. He's like, I just see you. Can you see where I'm at? This is the first time that you see also what's going on with Kylo. You can see that he's kind of eaten by the guilt of killing his dad. And he didn't feel like this when he murdered and genocided a bunch of planets and like a bunch of people and stuff like this. He really just only feels bad for his dad, which I can respect. It's a little bit of a stretch to make him so eaten by the death of his father and yet feeling absolutely nothing for the destruction of a few planets, but I'm still rolling with it at this point. I'll accept it. And so he has like dark circles under his eyes. Like you can tell that he's just like, ugh, he's going through it. He's not having a good time. He didn't kill his mom, so like he's not being really. Snoke is not super happy about it, and he has like the scar is still running. So the scar is going to be feedered through the rest of the movies, the next 2 movies. And the interesting thing about the scar is that depending on when we see Kylo Ren, the scar is going to look completely different stages of healed. Sometimes it's going to be almost healed, sometimes it's going to be almost raw and open, and those are going to be at different times where so the timeline for the scar healing process does not work at all. But again, I don't think I care enough, but I just wanted to put that out there. Luke, who is in exile, refuses to help Rey. She's just there. She's just waiting for something to do. R2-D2, who is also on the island of Acto with Luke and Rey, kind of convinces Luke to give Rey at least 3 lessons on the Force. He says, essentially, he just gives up. He gives up. He's a weak old man, and he gives up and decides to help Rey with the Force, even though he's being very grumpy about it. But we love a grumpy old man narrative, and so I appreciate that, and I am down with this, and I accept it. While Luke is teaching Rey about the Force, she keeps meeting with Kylo Ren, and as their meeting happens more and more, the visions are becoming clearer. At some point, she's under the rain, and like a wave or something like crashes close by her, and so she gets wet, and he has water on his glove. So you're like, oh, okay, wow, the Force is connecting just the two of them, but also slowly their environments. Like, they're starting to be able to see each other's environment, which is not great when you're trying to escape from a person. Because Kylo's like, oh, that's gonna be great. It's gonna help me to figure out where the fuck she is. And Rey's like, oh, if he knows where I'm at, I'm cooked. So this is what's happening. Rey, being the good girl that she is, tries to convince Ren to be a good man. I'm not entirely sure why Rey decides that Ren is worth saving. If I were her, I wouldn't. I simply just would not be able to go past the genocide. But Rey's just better than me, I guess. And she's like, you know, you could make your daddy proud, and you could just turn and your mom proud, and you could just turn back to the good side, to the light side, and I can help you because I am now a powerful Jedi, and I've known about my powers for 38 hours, and I can help you. Sure. Luke explains to Rey that he sensed that Snoke was calling to Kylo, and that he feared, like back when Kylo Ren was an apprentice, and back when Luke was running the school, he sensed that Ben Solo might have become a threat, and so contemplated killing his nephew. He had his lightsaber open while Ben was sleeping soundly in his bed, and Ben panicked, dropped the hut onto them, knocking Luke unconscious, and Ben Solo fled, but not before murdering all of his colleagues. I don't think that needed to happen. I think he probably could have just fled. There was no reason for him to murder all of his colleagues. Like, there was literally no reasons to do that, other than maybe giving a callback to when Anakin did this in the prequels. But it doesn't make sense to Ben's character to murder all of these people, because at that point he's just supposed to be a child who's afraid of his own power and who's being called by the dark side, but he's not in the dark side at this point yet. So the fact that the first thing that he does when Luke starts to doubt him is kill and murder at least 20 people. There has to be at least 20 people in this thing. Is insane to me. Regardless, it's the decision that they make, and we must live with it. So you have a side plot there where they're trying to do a little bit more fan service. So after Rey has been taught enough about the Force, she just feels like she knows what she's supposed to do, and she decides that she's gonna go and save Ben Solo. Okay, and so Luke's on his own, and he wants to burn the library of the Jedi, which is just like 5 little books. But he can't really bring himself to do this, and Yoda appears out of thin air as like a hologram and tells him, learn from your failures, blah blah blah, helps him burn the library. So that's what happens. There is a side plot that happens in the second movie where they have to go to Canto Bight, and by they I mean Finn and Rose, who are now being coupled up together in order to help the Resistance disable some tracking device so that the Resistance can go away, because this is, as I said earlier, the Resistance has fled into hyperspace, but the First Order is following them because they have a tracking device, and the way to disable the tracking device is on Canto Bight, which is a weird casino planet. So you have this B-plot unfolding as all of this happens. I just don't care. I could not care less. I think Finn's arc at this point just stalls a lot. He just doesn't experience growth as much as I wanted him to, and I think he had so much potential, and it upsets me so much that they don't go all the way with that. But it's completely fine. And so essentially you have Mas Kanata who orient them towards the casino. They go to the casino. it all works out in the end. I just do not care. The only thing that you really need to know about this side plot is that Finn and Rose do what they're supposed to do, but they end up on the flagship where Snoke, Rey, and Kylo Ren are, because of plot purposes. While this is happening and they're setting orphans free and things like this, meanwhile Rey is being brought up to Snoke with Kylo Ren, and you have the very important elevator scene where Rey says to Kylo Ren, hey, I've seen your future, I see that you turn, and I am going to help you. Kylo is like, oh, that's so interesting that you're saying this, because I have also seen the future, and you're gonna turn to the dark side with me, and you and I are gonna reign as a powerful power couple on the dark side. And she's like, well, that's complicated because I've seen your future and you're gonna be reigning with me on the light side. And they have this little fight. Their eye contact is intense, and then they end up just on the floor where Snoke is, and Snoke tries to gather information from Rey using the Force. So Snoke has the Force, and from Rey's brain he tries to extract where Luke is. Luke is a central point of the second movie, even though he has no real purpose, because a lot of what Rey learns is on her own. Like, she learns so much more on her own than she does with him. She has like one lesson where she hovers over a rock and she goes straight into the dark side, and he's like, I see the same power that I saw in Kylo Ren, and he doesn't want to train her anymore. So she has to do all of this work, heavy hauling, all by herself. So good for her. You go back to the plotline of the Resistance, and the Resistance is like, okay, well, the First Order keeps tracking us. Let's just escape in small vessels. Put everybody in the small vessels, and they'll escape this way, because otherwise we are too easy targets in our huge fucking ships. You have like a mutiny where Poe doesn't agree with Holdo's plan, and then Leia awakens from her slumber and like paralyzes Poe so that they can go ahead with the evacuation. I do not care about this plotline. It doesn't matter to me. The only thing that matters is that you now have a bunch of small vessels in which you have the final piece of the Resistance, we guess, and the First Order starts to pick them out. And the one thing I will say that is very interesting about this scene is that it goes on for the First Order starts to pick each specific vessel out. They're just one after the other in a very slow, you're seeing your death come in but you don't know, it's kind of a randomized situation. But Snoke makes her look through like a lens so that she can see all of her people being killed. And you see like 4 ships, and yet that's supposed to be all of the vessels. And they keep murdering more, and they keep exploding more and more ships. They're doing this so slowly over the course of at least 10 minutes, and you only have 3 or 4 ships. So the math doesn't really add up, but will accept it because it's Star Wars. Snoke, he shows her, okay, all of your little friends are currently dying, and so here's what's gonna happen now. You're gonna be used by Kylo. Kylo's going to kill you, and he's going to complete his training, because Snoke's main arc, the only thing that he wants is for Kylo to complete his training, and the training happens to be something different every single time. He needs to kill his dad, he needs to kill his mom, and then doesn't succeed, but that doesn't seem to matter so much, and now he needs to kill Rey, which also doesn't really make much sense, because she's supposed to be a weak bitch. Like, why does Snoke care about this? I don't know. I guess he just wants Kylo to have nothing and no one, and so he's like, let's just kill everybody that you've ever interacted with, so the only thing that you have is going to be me, which is so evil, but sure. And this is where what I was telling you earlier about how dumb Snoke is comes back into perspective, because Snoke is doing this whole show of telling Rey, narrating her end basically by going, hey, I can sense the Force running through Kylo, and he's like turning his lightsaber to run true. Meanwhile, Kylo is turning Snoke's own lightsaber towards his side, so he's using a decoy essentially. He's pretending in his mind palace, Kylo is pretending that he's turning his own lightsaber against Rey, but the truth is that Kylo is using Snoke's own lightsaber against him. And so he turns the lightsaber on. Snoke gets cut up in half and dies. Kylo and Rey exchange a look, and it's like, oh, now we're on the same side. All of this from an elevated conversation where they were not even in agreements, but sure. Kylo is weak and he wants someone. He's just a lonely boy. He's a lonely boy. He wants someone, and Rey's offering that, so he's going with it. And also Rey's she's a good looking lady, so he's like, all right, I guess, and you have the Force, maybe you're meant to be with me. I don't know. I don't think it makes much sense, but I'll accept it. And so you have all of these guards that are in phenomenal costumes, by the way. I don't know how practical those costumes are, because they have like a huge red helmet that kind of looks like the thing that they have in Dune when Faye Rafa is fighting. Those like weird kind of spiderish vibes. So that's the same vibe in my brain, except it's red and it's like one big one going back. Anyway, the point is that you have a bunch of these guards, and they don't intervene for a very long time until it's time for them to intervene, led by no one, because Snoke is now dead. But they decide to go and kill Rey and Kylo, and so Rey and Kylo fight together. You have a throne room fight scene where they finally fight together against the enemy. And this is where you have another one of those red-white situation where the whole throne room has this red curtain, almost like a chapiteau for circuses, like, you know, like those weird circuses thing. That's the material that it feels like it's made out of, and that catches on fire through like a spark or something. You have them fighting, and it is gorgeous and beautiful. They kill the guards together. Rey's like, okay, we gotta go help the First Order now, because this whole time that we've been fighting, all of my friends are being murdered. My friends that I don't know, by the way, because she's never really been with the Resistance for longer than 5 seconds. She doesn't know any of these bitches, but I guess she's just a kind-hearted woman. She wants to help. So she's like, we have to go and help. And Kylo's like, stop. Listen to me for a second. What if we were to work together? Don't you think it would be fantastic if you join me? And he extends his hand, and he's like, join me. And she's like, I can't not take your hand. You are the devil. I want to take your hand, but I can't do this because you're letting my friends die. And she runs away, and he's kind of upset about this. While Rey and Kylo have this argument that takes entirely too long, while the Resistance is being actively murdered, Holdo, the replacement of Leia, decides that she's going to commit suicide in order to help the Resistance. So she goes at full speed, hyperspace, through one of the wings of the big First Order ship, and so she dies. A full wing of the ship gets destroyed and incapacitates the First Order, so they can't really kill the remaining ship. And Kylo survives all of this, and he says, I am now the Supreme Leader because Snoke is dead. I don't even know if he says I've killed him. He just decides that he's now the Supreme Leader, which is completely fine with me. BB-8 frees Finn and Rose that were prisoners. They fight and defeat Phasma, who, again, my favorite character in this entire show. Brian of Tart really carries the whole show on her shoulders. She's just so tall. So all of the survivors of the Resistance flee to a planet, I believe it's a planet called Crate. They're in sort of almost like Dune again. They're in a fissure in the planet, and the First Order shows up, and they're here. And they're like, we're going to end you. And you have another time this motif, white planet. This time it's not snow, this time it's salt. And then when you remove the salt, you have this like deep red earth. Beautiful composition. Love that. I thought it was, aesthetically speaking, 10 out of 10. Once again, they're all here. And once again, the First Order tries to kill the Resistance. And I do want to say that the First Order is so much better than the Resistance at finding. The First Order is really good at finding. The Resistance is horrible at escaping. Like, they keep escaping. The amount of deaths in the Resistance that have happened since the beginning of the movie number 1 is crazy. The losses that they have experienced throughout these movies, I don't think there should be any Resistance left. If you had told me you can join the Resistance, but the rate of death is 1 out of 3, I would say no thank you. Let me join the First Order, because at least they seem to be good at what they're doing. The Resistance is flaky as fuck. They keep getting found out. It's just so bad. It's just so bad. And they keep dying. All of them keep dying. So anyway, they're on Crate. Kylo is like, we're gonna murder all of you. Luke decides to intervene. And listen, I understand that you need to give this old man something to do. I just wasn't here. I just think it didn't make any sense. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So Luke kind of arrives and gives the Resistance time to escape. Luke apologizes to Kylo, and Kylo's like, oh yeah. Adam Driver is really good in his role as Kylo Ren, the tortured man who has murdered hundreds of thousands of people. You can see a lot of his struggles in his eyes, and I do think this is the only reason why I'm rooting for him, is because I can tell how shattered and broken he is as a man, and I love me a shattered man. I love a man who's just broken inside, and like, I love when a guy's spirit is just destroyed, and that is what personally warms my heart. Luke is like, you don't have to be this way, like, you can still be good even though you've killed your dad, like, you can still be good, like, your mom's not dead. Kylo tries to kill Luke, realizes that Luke is actually a hologram, or like a fake, like a spirit Jedi. He's like a spirit Jedi, and I think Luke dies. This is when Luke died, because it took so much energy of Luke to pretend to be here when he actually wasn't. That's the way that he finishes. He ends his life by helping the Resistance flee, and by seeding more doubt in Kylo Ren. So Kylo Ren at this point has killed his dad, did not manage to kill his mother, but has murdered so many people, has tried to kill his uncle and has failed only because his uncle was not physically present. He would have killed his uncle. So he's like actively trying to decimate his entire family. But we're feeling sympathy for him regardless. While this is happening, Rey helps the Resistance flee by putting everybody on the Falcon. And I just want to, there used to be so many ships. They're putting all of the remaining survivors on the Falcon. The Falcon, which is a small ship. So the amount of is crazy. The amount of dead people in the Resistance is wild. And yet they're kind of like the stormtroopers in that there's always enough of them somehow. There's always enough of the Resistance. The Resistance dies, but they have outposts fucking everywhere. Here's my thing. If the Resistance really wanted to resist, all they would need to do, and this is my genuine belief, all they would probably need to do is just take all of, like, send a message to all of the Resistance people and tell them, let's organize a huge fight against the First Order, because there are so many of us and we're all like in small little outposts trying to defend our own little lives. Like, join, band together against the enemy. It's only when you're banding together that you're going to be able to achieve something. You're not going to be able to do this if it's a group of like 1,000 of you and then by the end of this there's only 3. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. They all escape on the Falcon, all of the Resistance. Luke dies and becomes one with the Force, and Leia and Rey realize that he's dead because they're connected to the Force. And then on Canto Bight, you have this small kid who like senses the Force or something. So you're like, the Jedis are not all dead. You have a bunch of Jedis still, which is another thing that we could get into, but I don't think we're gonna get into the fact that there's so many more Jedis. Like, the Jedis are not dead and were never dead, and I don't understand why they assume that they were. You have Rey, you have Snow, you have Kylo Ren, you have all of these orphans, and I have to assume more kids are gonna be born with the Force. So like, it wasn't gonna be the last Jedi ever, but I digress. So now we're on to movie 3, which is the final one in the sequel. This is where I'm going to try to remind you guys that the third movie was directed by J.J. Abrams, who directed the first one. Rian Johnson directed the second one. So you had some kind of linear truth coming from 1 to 2, coming from 2 to 3 back to J.J. Abrams, because I don't know, and I have not researched the reason why they kind of played this little game, why J.J. Abrams didn't do the second one and why he did the third one and why Rian Johnson didn't do the third one. I'm not really sure what the story is. Actually, let me find out. Okay, so it's kind of interesting. Abrams launched a trilogy. They wanted to have someone who knew what he was doing. He'd done Mission Impossible. He'd done some Star Trek. So he was kind of like a sure thing, like J.J. Abrams, where you were like, okay, you know how to do a good movie. You're gonna launch back the trilogy. You're gonna do this well. Then Lucasfilm and Disney had decided we're gonna have a different director for each of the installation of the 3 movies so that each movie can have its own voice. So the second one goes according to plan. You have Rian Johnson, who just kind of follows, and he's doing really well. I think he's done really well. Inconsistencies, yes, we've discussed them before, but overall, pretty good movie. It leads to a potential good redemption arc. And then you have the third one, which was supposed to be led by Colin Trevor, who did Jurassic World, but apparently over creative differences, he ended up leaving the project, but everything had already started, so they didn't really have much time to find someone new, and so they turned back to a sure thing, J.J. Abrams, who had said after the end of the first movie that he had given everything that he had on this, and that he didn't really want to do it anymore. So now he's brought back for the third one, even though it wasn't planned at all, and wasn't something that he was supposed to be doing. And so we have the third movie of the trilogy called The Rise of Skywalker. To say that it was a disappointment to me is such a short way. The movie is so disappointing to me because they had so many things that it could have done and they decided to do none of these things. But regardless, we power on because we must. I have invested too much time already in the series. I have watched movie 1, movie 2. I'm gonna watch movie 3 regardless of how bad it potentially is. And I was holding out hope. So it happens 1 year after the Battle of Crate, where only 3 resistance people have survived. But suddenly there are hundreds of resistance fighters once again. They're on one of the outposts and there's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. We don't know where they used to be, where they were, why they didn't help the previous resistance, but doesn't matter. You have the craziest storyline where somehow Palpatine returns. And this is a line that is used in the movie. Poe Dameron says, straight face, somehow Palpatine returned. Palpatine died several movies ago. He died. He is dead. And we're gonna see throughout the third movie that J.J. Abrams and death isn't so much, it's not really a thing. Death is something that you can come back from for J.J. Abrams, which is a really interesting concept. What the fuck? But sure. Palpatine has returned. And he has to have returned because Snoke is dead. You now have Kylo Ren, who is the Supreme Leader, but Kylo Ren's experiencing some issues with identity. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know what he wants. He's struggling. You can't have him as a full evil man because he's in his redemption journey already. So he can't be like a full evil person, and they don't have time to install a new evil person because it's the third movie. I don't know what the first initial plan for movie number 3 was going to be. I'm hoping that that they just had to do this for some reason. I'm hoping that it was not planned from the beginning because it is such a dumb idea and it makes no fucking sense and it upsets me to no end. Palpatine, who has been resurrected from the dead, sends a message of revenge against the galaxy, and Palpatine decides that he's going to end everybody's lives, and especially the Resistance. He's going to kill the Resistance, he's going to resurrect the Sith Order, and he's going to reign forever powerful on the many planets that they have. Kylo finds a Sith Wayfinder and finds Palpatine, and Palpatine fully just explains what he's up about. Kylo goes to Exegol, which is not in like the known galaxy. He just finds it through the Wayfinder, which is a kind of like a little pyramid. Kylo Ren goes there because he's not scared for his life at all. And Palpatine goes, hey, I was behind Snoke this whole time. I've been alive this whole time. I was the master hand behind Snoke. I'm behind the First Order. I'm behind everything. I am evil. I have so many Sith with me, and he does is the thing. There are so many Sith. There are hundreds of thousands of Sith that are all dressed the same. You never see their faces. They're just under like a weird kind of cover, and they're waiting for something. We don't know what, but they're waiting. They're very, very patient Sith. They are so loyal that they are just waiting on the planet with a dead, resurrected Palpatine. Palpatine says, hey, if you can find Rey and kill her, I will give you a bunch of ships. So Kylo is like, okay, yeah, I'll find Rey and I'll kill her for you. Don't even worry about it. And the plot is very convoluted, but essentially they capture a spy who tells them about Palpatine, and Rey finds out that the only way to find Exegol and Palpatine is through a Wayfinder that Kylo Ren has but that she doesn't have. And they find Luke's note that says that he knows where one of the Wayfinder is. They go to this planet called Pasadena, Pasana. So they go to Pasana, where supposedly there's a clue that can help them find where the Wayfinder is. And as you can tell from my opinion, I just could not care less about this plot. I just think it's so dumb. I think everything about this is so dumb. They're using this in order to give movement to the movie, but it doesn't work because it doesn't make sense that Palpatine is there. we're gonna have to go with the flow and assume that this is fine. Kylo and Rey are still exploring their bond at this point. They're still trying to figure out what the fuck is going on and why they're able to see each other, and the more time happens and the more they can see where in the space they are, which I've mentioned before. So he finds out where she is. She's in Pasadena. I'm gonna call it Pasadena at this point. Pasadena. So she's in Pasadena. They fight. He finds her there. He understands which planet she's on. Which again, I understand that there's like the known and the unknown galaxy, but we're talking about a galaxy here. It's a huge place. And even with light speed, like, it just seems incredible that Kylo Ren would know through very tiny cues where Rey is. Like, there's no way he has gone to all of these planets. How does he know? How does he know so much? Like, how educated is this man on all of the cultures that exist on all of the known galaxies? It just baffles me. But maybe he's just a really smart and educated man. I don't know. Anyway, so he knows that she's in Pasadena and goes to find her because he needs to kill her so that he can get a fleet. While this is happening, Rey finds the clue. She finds the clue on Pasadena. She's being helped by a bunch of people, including some members of the previous movies. Like Lando's here. He's just here and he helps her, and she finds a clue to find the Wayfinder in order to find Palpatine. It's a dagger, it has a Sith text, and then somehow, if you point the dagger towards one of the wrecked ships on the ocean, it shows you exactly where the Wayfinder is. I don't remember how she figures this out. I just know that it's dumb and doesn't concern me, and it's ridiculous. And so anyway, so Rey figures out where the Wayfinder is, and she decides to go. And Rey in this movie upsets me to no end because the way that she doesn't give a fuck about anybody else is insane. Because Finn is out there trying to help her, so he follows her onto Pasadena. He helps her out. Like, he cares about her. You can tell they're no longer a ship. I think at this point, for me specifically, like, I don't see them ending up together, mostly because Rey could not care less about Finn in this movie, and that upsets me to no end. Like, she finds where the Wayfinder is. She steals a ship, like a small ship, and goes onto the water to go there all by herself. She doesn't ask nobody's help. She's like, I'm gonna go all by myself and I'm gonna find the Wayfinder. Finn, he's made friend with the local people there who help him get on the ship, and like, there's like a lady with like fantastic hair who helps him. You should stay with this lady because she cares about you in a way that Rey never will, which upsets me because Rey and Finn had a really good thing going in movie 1, so that's annoying. There is something that happens right before, and I'm gonna talk about it really quickly, but essentially Rey and Ren have a fight over a ship where they believe that Chewbacca is, because they're both trying to get a ship, and Rey makes it explode through the power of lightning in her fingers. And so she thinks that she has killed Chewbacca. She hasn't, but she thinks so. And she's like so upset about it. She runs away with Finn, and then we have this whole dilemma. So Chewbacca's presumed dead at this point in the movie. They realize that he's actually not dead, and they stage a rescue mission on the ship where Kylo is. And so Kylo and Rey fight once more. She has like repressed memories of her family, and Kylo is like, oh, your parents were nothing, but like, think about it. Like, were they really nobody? And this is where they started to lose me. I love the idea of Rey being a nobody, and I hated the fact that they made her into a Palpatine. It just hurts. It hurts me to my soul. It did not need to happen. Not every superhero needs to have a family lineage. I really like the idea. They have this in the Hunger Games. They have this in Slumdog Millionaire. I love the idea of someone who comes from fucking nothing and through just sheer experience and trauma ends up being a good person without any specific reason to be that way. But regardless, so they're starting to sprinkle the fact that maybe Rey's lineage matters. Even though in the previous movie, Ren had told her, you're nothing, but not to me. Clock that. What a pickup line. So Kylo, while he fights Ren, is like, hey, by the way, Palpatine's your grandfather. Like, you have lineage. Like, you don't even know the power that you have inside of you. So you're not just like a nobody that has the Force. Like they've showed through Canto Bight, when you have like the small orphan kid like wielding the Force, and you're like, oh my god, nobodies can have power. No, Rey has power because her granddad is Palpatine. Anyway, you have this B plot also of General Hawk, who's like the dude from All About Time. I'm so sorry. I love you as an actor. I do not remember what your name is. And so he's supposedly a spy. Listen, I can't suspend my disbelief on this. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, you can't be... And even if he had been a spy from the beginning of the movies, first of all, you never sprinkled any inkling that he might be the spy, so the reveal doesn't hit, because you're not like, oh, I thought so. Like, that, I expected this. It hits you out of nowhere. He is a murderer, and now you're telling me he's a spy, and he's going to help Finn and Chewbacca escape. Just doesn't make sense. And it doesn't really even matter, because, I mean, yes, they do escape, but then Hux gets shot and dies. And then they all escape, like, Rey escapes as well. Like, she jumps off into the space. It doesn't matter. So we're going back to the Wayfinder. Rey goes onto the planet where the Wayfinder is. She figures out that the dagger shows where the Wayfinder is. She takes the ship, goes and finds the Wayfinder. And she confronts her own demons there, and finds another Rey, who's like a mind hallucination, I have to assume. I don't really know why they're doing this. And so you have Rey, who's using, I think it's Palpatine's lightsaber, red lightsaber from both sides, so kind of like her staff. Maybe that's why, I don't know, like maybe this, I mean, no, because your selection of a weapon shouldn't really inform your lineage. She fights against herself because the evil Rey Palpatine is like, hey, like, you could be with your grandfather, you can have a family again, and you can join the dark side. And Rey is like, no, but I'm the light side, blah, blah, blah. She fights her for like 2 seconds, then she gets thrown out of the room, so we understand that it was a vision. But Kylo Ren is here. Picks up the Wayfinder, breaks it with his hand. Okay. And says, the only way that you're going back to Palpatine is with me, because I know where he is, and I have just broken your Wayfinder. And Rey goes crazy. They start fighting each other. I will say that the fighting scene is really, it's a fun time for me. There's rain, there's the ocean, there's this whole, they're starting to jump and using the Force to fly. They are now both able to use the Force to a level that I never would have expected. Like, they're so good at it, both of them, and they're showing us that they have even powers, that they're both able to fight in a similar way. They both can fly, sure, or jump and like control the way that they land. They can fly. Not only can they fly, they're really good with lightsabers, they're even powered, and they talk during this whole time. Who's gonna win? Is it the light side or is it going to be the dark side? And they're still not in agreement. At this point, the craziest thing happened. Leia, who is played, she's not really, because the actress died during, like, after the second movie, I believe. And so they decided to use B-roll that hadn't been used of Leia. I would personally not have gone that way. But alas, this is not my business, not my monkey. Leia, who's alive at this point, decides she's gonna go ahead and communicate with Ben, her son, to make him see the light, which she could have done at any other point. Why does she wait this long to communicate with her son? I do not know, but here we are. And she uses all of her remaining strength, because let's remember, she used a lot of her Force to not die in space. Okay, good. And so she goes all by herself and like thinks really hard, and she calls her son, and she's like, Ben. And he hears her from planets away, and she dies. And that name, heard from his mother's mouth, is enough to make him change, it seems. At this point, he's destabilized. Rey stabs him with the lightsaber. By all means, he should die. He should be dead, or he should be dying soon. And she stabs him and immediately senses that Leia has died and decides to save him. And she's like, I can't take your hand, but I'll save your life. So she saves him, steals a ship, and flies away. Meanwhile, when this is happening, Finn is also trying to help Rey, and she pushes him out because she wants to fight Ren all by herself. And also she leaves. She doesn't care about Finn at all. So Finn is left on this broken ship in the middle of the ocean with this lady with the luscious hair. She doesn't give a about him at all. She just leaves him there, and she just goes away. She leaves Kylo Ren, Finn, and the lady with the luscious long hair alone on this little broken ship, and she just goes away. We've seen through the past 2 movies that Kylo is a very tantrumy child. Like, he can throw a tantrum like nobody else's business. He could have killed Finn so easily. He could have taken him hostage. Like, he could have done horrendous things to Rey's supposed best friend, and she doesn't give a Rey would not make it into my friend group, is what I'm saying. Kylo, luckily, has just been changed by his mother calling his name, and he speaks with the ghost of his father. Han Solo appears as though through a memory and talks to his son and tells him, you can be good. You do not have to walk on your knees and blah blah blah, that whole goose poem. You can still be changed. I love you even though you murdered me. Ben is now Ben. He is no longer Kylo Ren. Props to Adam Driver, because the switch, when it happens, is phenomenal. The acting choices from heretofore, from onwards, marvelous. So Kylo Ren takes his lightsaber, throws it into the and he becomes Ben Solo. He has been redeemed. I think he should be judged and potentially put on trial for the murder of so many people. But alas, this is not what the story is about. Rey has escaped, as we've discussed previously, and she has gone to Acto again, where she has burned her ship, because she decides to go into a self-exile the same way that Luke has. This doesn't make sense to me for so many reasons that I'm not going to go into, but she just decides, I'm not going to help the Resistance. She didn't murder Kylo Ren. Like, she has accomplished nothing. She has opened so many loopholes and then has decided to close none of them. She just burns her ship and decides that she's going to live in exile on Acto. And Luke Skywalker's spirit shows up and tells her that she can do good things. Again, the carelessness that the third movie has in regards to death is kind of wild to me. Leia dies and then doesn't die and then dies and then doesn't die. Luke dies and then resurrects as a spirit. Yoda is there. Lando hasn't died. All of this seems really crazy to me, that none of them really die and the Force is able to bring them back to life whenever is necessary and whenever the narrative requires it. So that's crazy. From the depth of the island, Luke's X-Wing kind of rises from the water, and Rey, who had just destroyed her own ship, goes onto that ship to go find Palpatine. She uses Ben's Wayfinder to find Palpatine. I'm confused by this, and I'll just accept it. I don't want to go and figure out how this happens, but she uses the Wayfinder because Ben broke her Wayfinder, but she finds Ben's Wayfinder, and so she finds out where Palpatine is, and so she goes to meet him. Rey transmits all of her information to R2-D2 so that the Resistance knows where she is, and they can go and try to help her if possible. The Resistance, everybody's dead, right? At the Resistance, so many people have died. Poe and Finn are now the Resistance people. Keep in mind that Poe did like a full mutiny against Leia earlier, and yet he's now the king of the Resistance, so that's fine. Poe and Finn go and follow Rey to Exegol. They take a long time to get there, so she has so much time to meet with her grandfather, where he essentially tells her, you are my granddaughter, I love you, you could become a Sith and resurrect the Sith. Again, something crazy happens. What he starts with, Palpatine, is, what's gonna happen is that you are going to kill me, and you're going to take my place, and you're gonna have all of these Sith who are loyal and waiting to do whatever it is that your heart desires. The Resistance arrives and starts attacking the fleet, and Ben arrives, and now he is full on Ben, and you can tell that he's full on Ben through the acting of the actor. Like, Adam Driver has made Ben into a full-on character. The shift is insane because he's wearing the same, almost like he's wearing a Henley now instead of like whatever weird collar thing he had. But he's full-on Ben, and you can tell that he's full-on Ben. There's light in his eye. He's having fun. Like, his demeanor is completely changed. Go off, Adam Driver. You did so well with this. I'm very glad. Ben kind of fights against a bunch of people. Rey gives him a lightsaber through the Force power. Again, the Force is doing insane things in this movie. So she just like drops her weapon and he picks it up from behind his head. Sure. And so he defeats like the Knights of Ren or whatever the fuck, and he goes and finds Rey. The two of them are, and they have expressed a little bit previously. I don't know if they express it in the second movie, but in the third movie they mention a dyad, so like a duo, like a Force duo. And Palpatine sees them both arrive, and he's like, wait. you guys are so powerful together. If I drain you, both of your powers, I will be resuscitated. I no longer need Rey to kill me and take my place. I can just keep my own place if I kill you both and I take your power. And so he drains Ben and Rey, who suddenly have no more powers. Here's my grief. Palpatine is evidently weak. Like, they show him as like this weak dude who's like suspended by a bunch, very, very similar to Dune, the Baron, right? He's suspended by a bunch of stuff. He's like thin as a ghost, but he's suspended and being kept alive by the powers of God. I don't know. And so he's still strong enough to be able to obtain the Force from the Dyad. And you can see that Ben and Rey are struggling, but they're not getting anywhere with this. And I find this to be kind of interesting, because we have been shown time and time again that Rey and Ben are actually super, super powerful together, and suddenly out of nowhere they no longer can. I don't really buy it, but sure. When Palpatine is restored, neither Ben nor Rey are fully dead. They're just extremely weakened, and I think Palpatine just kind of throws Ben far away. Ben falls into a ditch. He just falls into a ditch, like far, far, far away. You assume that he's probably going to be dead, even though apparently nobody here stays dead. And Rey wakes up, and she's looking out at the sky. She's looking at all of the Resistance people being killed, because as all of this happens, there's still, like, the Resistance is being plucked out of the sky. They're being murdered again. And she looks past all of her dead friends, sees the wide vastness of the galaxy, and she hears all of the people with the Force talking to her and imprinting her with some kind of powers. Puts her, like, hand on the floor, and she gets the power from the Force, finds a lightsaber, and then I think a second lightsaber, and she fights against Palpatine, who's killing all of the Resistance people. She murders Palpatine, but she dies in the process. So using the Force of every other Jedi before her that has died, she defeats Palpatine, but in the process accidentally she just kind of dies, which is very unfortunate and sad. Ben comes out of the ditch. He survived the fall, which he should not have survived, but then again, the Ben Solo family refuses to die in conventional ways. So he comes back out of the ditch and he finds Rey dead, and he's like, no! He doesn't say that, but you can tell. He's kind of upset about this. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to revive Rey because she deserves to live more than I deserve to live. And this is the end of his redemption. He decides to save someone. So despite the thousands and thousands and thousands of people that he has murdered without a care in the world, including his own father, and trying to kill his uncle, he revives Rey through the power of the Force. And Rey, at this point, I do need to impress upon you, Rey has been dead for at least 5 minutes. She's not just like, you know, when you die and someone like keeps you alive for a bit so that you have time to go to the hospital and like figure something out. She's been fully dead for a little over 5 minutes at least, and he brings her back. Aren't you afraid that something horrible might happen? Like, I would be terrified, but no, he's not afraid. And she doesn't also. She just comes back to life, and she's like, oh my god, amazing, did you just save me? They look at each other, they kiss. She had said before to him, I wanted to take your hand, Ben's hand. And so she sees him as Ben. He saved her from death, or resurrected her, I guess, because she had fully died. They kiss. Ben smiles. He has gotten everything he wanted. And then he dies. Rey is like, oh no, I'm so upset about this. But then she just leaves his body. She leaves his body there. She leaves his body there, joins the Resistance, and they all celebrate their victory. And Rey goes and visits Luke's abandoned like homestead where he used to like take care of the Jedi that Kylo Ren murdered. She buries Luke and Leia's lightsaber there, and she calls herself Rey Skywalker because some random person asked for a name, and that's the end of the movie. So here's some of the things that I would like to talk about now. The first thing that I want to talk about is Finn. Finn was given so much potential, and then he just ends up being a follower when he had the chops of a hero. Finn could have been a hero. He could have been something incredible. He ends up being like a semi-hero, but mostly through following stuff. Like, he's encouraged by Poe. Poe and Finn together are a unit. He himself alone fails. Like, he's put together with Rose. He's put together with Poe. He has like a few successes all by himself. I think you could have done something incredible with Finn, and I would have wanted to see more of him him unpacking. I want to unpack all of his story, and you do not get this. Poe is very much, he's a himbo. Poe's a himbo. He's a hot man that has skills, and he's a smart, good pilot. That's about the only, and he's loyal to the Resistance. That's all that you know about him. Also could be a very interesting character, because how did he end up here? And then Rose survives, there's a shipwreck towards the end of the third movie, but she survives or whatever, and I think she and Finn maybe kiss, but I wouldn't be able to fully tell you what happens, because I don't care, because they made it so that I wouldn't care. The Canto Bite situation that's supposed to make me endeared to these characters is so rushed and so in the middle of no reason. The story just feels like another movie inside of the movie, and I can't care. Rey butchered, because she had such an interesting concept. A lady from nowhere, from nobody, has no purpose, gets tangled up in a situation and ends up becoming a hero. Amazing arc. Why did you make her a Palpatine? It wasn't needed. You didn't need her to be a Palpatine for her to become a dyad in the Force. She could have done everything that has happened without being lineagely linked to Palpatine. This all could have been avoided, but it wasn't, and it upset me. Ben's storyline. Okay, here's my beef with Ren. The actor who portrays Ben, fantastic way to go from evil to light. I believed him with every crumb of a scene that they gave him. I was like, I believe in you, and I trust in you, and I trust that you are what you say that you are. But they tried to butcher him so bad that there comes a point where no matter what the actor does, it just feels ridiculous. I tried for Ben. He has done so many awful things. He's killed so many people, millions, potentially billions of people, and the redeeming arc to me personally is a little bit of a challenge, because you want us to care about a mass murderer, and I do, because Adam Driver makes me believe in him through the power of emotion, but they make him go the character arc that he goes through is so crazy. He really just, his mom says Ben, and he becomes a mummy's son, and then goes against everything that he has been working for the past 15 years. Crazy character arc. The switch is too fast. It's too fast. It's way too fast. But we must move on. The whole resurrection arc that happens in this movie is fully insane to me, and I can't impress how ridiculous it all sounds to me. You cannot have a character who is it just does not make any sense. You can't have people die and then come back whenever the narrative wills it. You could have them have memories. Have Rey think back fondly on Luke and some of the lessons that he instilled in her. I don't know. There are so many ways that you could have done this without them being actual living ghosts. They live on as ghosts. Fully ridiculous to me. Does not make sense. And that Rey dies and gets so many, you could have resurrected Ben. You also could have resurrected Rey without giving your entire life, because you're a dyad in the Force, and since you're a dyad, shouldn't you both be dead? If one of you dies, shouldn't the other also die? It doesn't make sense, unless maybe Ben's spirit would have been inside of Rey's spirit and they can cohabitate or something like this, which isn't what happens, so it just doesn't make sense. If they're a dyad in the Force, the two of them, any other person wielding a shred of neurons would go, oh, they're a dyad. If one dies, the other dies too. That's the way it goes. That's the immediate, oh, of course, this is what's supposed to happen. And that doesn't happen at all. Dumb. Wasted time. You could have killed both of them instead of only one. Rude. Or the power of love. The power of love could have kept them both alive. Because here's the thing. So much more interesting for Ben to have to live with his mistakes than to die. Just because you save the girl that you love, out of nowhere, by the way, but just because you save the girl that you love does not atone for all of the horrible, horrendous, heinous acts that you have committed prior. That's the way that they're kind of making it happen. He redeems himself by giving his life to Rey. Make him live with himself. Make him struggle. This is what I want to see from The Last of Us Part 3. If they ever do one, I want to see Ellie live with herself. I don't want her to die at any point. I want her to live. And I say this with love and light in my heart. Love Ellie. Would die for her. But she needs to learn how to be a good person, and she can't do this if she gives her life to become a cure. Similarly, Ben cannot be redeemed and cannot become a good guy simply by saving one person after having murdered hundreds of thousands of people. Make him act. Make him become part of the resistance. Make him, even though they don't really need a resistance because they've murdered the First Order now, so like I'm assuming now it's only ever going to be them and they're now kings of the world. They've done so many fanfictions where Ben lives on and he like teaches Jedis and he like teaches them how to be a good Jedi because he used to be a bad Jedi. Like there's so many things where you've done so much bad that your death is not good enough to atone for all of your sins. You need to put in the work to atone for your sins, and to do that you could go to Canto Bight and open like a homestead where you're going to help the future generation of Jedi, and you can do this with Rey or without Rey. It doesn't really matter at this point. Just like heal and make better now that you've done so many things that are bad. Work to make whatever it is that you can better. This is a good character arc. Your death means nothing to me. And also, we leave and abandon your body on Exegol. That's so dark. Your body fully gets abandoned. Sort of a wild decision to me. All of the Resistance rejoices. Shouldn't you be mourning for the thousands of people that have died in the past 20 minutes of but by the end of the movie, like the amount of your colleagues that have just died is in the hundreds of thousands. So many of you guys have died and you're just rejoicing like, fantastic, yeah, the Resistance won. You need to organize better. You're losing too many of your people in each attack that you're sustaining. Like, this is not good enough. Also, Poe did like this whole mutiny thing. Should he be in charge? Unsure. That's the end of the sequel, which, what a ride. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna go wash this off of my face, and I'll see you in the next video.